Hey guys, we are live. Welcome to the Bag Searches podcast. I'm Zach Ginn, your host. I quitted my minimum wage bag boy job to pursue the riches of real estate investing at the age of 17 and never looked back. I'm here to educate and inform entrepreneurs, young and old, how to become complete real estate investors by talking to the best and most influential minds of real estate. I'm joined by our guest today, Spencer Vann. Spencer is a real estate investor and mentor. He is the co-founder of the Surplus Fund Mastery, one of the premier foreclosure home buying courses in real estate investing. Thanks for coming on today.
I'm very excited to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
All right. So let's get this started from the top. You know, you're obviously a very young guy. I'm very curious how you got your start in real estate investing.
Yeah, well, it really started for me as a kid. I was really interested in business initially. You know, I was that kid that always had lemonade stands. And then quickly I got into sports. And when I got into sports, that was all I cared about until I got really injured when I was 15. And I realized at that point I was not going to the NBA. I was not going to the big leagues. And I needed a path to make some money because I started looking around and just with my situation, I didn't want to go the college route. I didn't want to go the regular job route. And I happened to stumble across a real estate investing book. Probably that many of your viewers know. It's kind of a big secret. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I read that. And then I just started going around, you know, kind of joining like little free real estate meetups and kind of going from there and learning from there. I ended up doing my first bird dog deal my junior year, but basically the end of my junior year of high school. And really just kind of grew it from there. And yeah, that was basically it, to be honest. So. Yeah.
Okay. And what market was this in?
This is all in Southern California. This is where I was born and raised.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. So we're in SoCal.
Just here, like in kind of the Irvine area, if you're familiar with that.
Okay. Yeah. We got some students in the Inland Empire right now that we're helping scale up more, but that's really cool. So how did you get into the whole surplus fund niche?
Well, you know, what happened is, I mean, your students may know that are here. And in certain markets, and now it's becoming more prevalent, is wholesaling has become more and more competitive. Yeah. And I realized this, and I also realized that I wanted something that was easy to scale. Real estate can be scaled. Obviously, there's a lot of examples of it being scaled, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to scale. Yeah. And I looked around and I realized there was kind of a blue ocean. I had gone to a real estate meetup that my current business partner now, back then he wasn't my business partner, but he was hosting this meetup and he had some guy there talking about this idea of surplus funds. And I had no idea what that was. You know, I had like gone through and watched every YouTube video on real estate investing, every possible thing, never heard of surplus funds in my life. I was just like blown away. I was like, this is really a thing, you know, this is crazy. And it just, the idea was so intriguing that, you know, someone can go to auction, their house gets sold and it gets sold for more than what's owed. And that's now owed to them. And now it's people are going and trying to, you know, get their money back, and we're helping those people. And I just realized that like no one else is really doing that. And it just kind of seemed like such a wide open opportunity. Everyone's kind of looking like before the auction to try to help those people. But then once the auction happens, it's like, forget about those people. They don't need our help. You know? So I just kind of realized how wide open it was. And then the more I did research into it with my business partner who had done a bunch of surplus fund deals, and we just realized that it was really a big, wide open market and that we could really take advantage of it, really. So, yeah.
Wow. So I've seen things before. If you guys don't know who Spencer is, you've probably seen him before. If you've ever clicked on any real estate investing video ever, he's the guy holding the money. Maybe he's changed his ad copy up, but you've definitely seen him before 100%. That's how I got to know who he was. I looked into surplus funds. Really, nobody here in South Florida has ever talks about it. So that's why I'm very interested in it. Overall, with your business, are you primarily focused on the coaching now, or you still have a real estate investment business on the side? What's going on with all that?
Well, me personally, about maybe a year and a half ago, I shifted all of my focus to the marketing and sales kind of department of our education company. And then we actually have 4 or 5 coaches now, wow, actually coaching surplus funds. The cool thing is that with the exception of my business partner, David, who's my co-founder and the head coach, all of our other coaches have been previous students, and they've all gone and done really successful. Most notably is Rick Rickert, who is literally doing $1 million plus per year in profit with surplus funds, and just absolutely killing. He's actually in Florida, which is why I brought him up. But
Really?
One of the states he operates is in Florida. He lives in Arizona, but he's in a couple states. And yeah, so most of my time now is spent on doing the things you just talk about, YouTube and running the ads and all that side of it. And I just let the coaches who still do all that stuff and are in that stuff heavily focus on coaching. That way we can kind of work in tandem. So, yeah.
Wow. So how long have you done the surplus fund before, you were actually trying before then? So how long were you in real estate investing before the surplus fund actually came about?
Well, we started this company at the very end of 2017. And at that point, I had started in real estate in kind of the middle of 2015. And when I say start in real estate, I really mean start having some traction. I mean, I had probably learned about it for a year before that. And, you know how it is when you're first getting started. So, I would say probably 1 to 2 years, really. And that's why I partnered with someone, because I realized, I was like, there's so many people, and you've probably seen this too, that sell courses on things that they've done for 1 or 2 years. And I'm like, I could do that, or I could just partner with someone that's done it for 20 years and he could teach it and I could just do what I'm good at and everyone's happy. So that's always been the strategy.
So what would you say in this whole, probably ever since you were junior high school, I mean, what was your highest highs and lowest lows in the whole real estate industry?
In terms of, what do you mean?
Your highest highs and your lowest lows, saying, what was the top moment that you think you're at your pinnacle of the business, and any struggles or any lows that you had in the whole entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, I would say it's funny. Like the highest high, I guess you could say, is when I helped my mom buy a house, which is so funny because like we've had since then, this was a couple of years ago, like since then we've had like months that have been just like phenomenally, like financially have been like ridiculous, right? But even those, like, it just doesn't compare to like being able to help your own mom like get her first house. Like, it's just really an emotional thing, and so that's probably my favorite thing. And then the lowest lows is there were so many times when I was first getting started in every business, in real estate, when I was doing wholesaling initially, when I was, even before that, when I was doing bird dogging, and then looking past that with this business that we have now, and just all the different things I've done, like just so many failures. I remember when I was in my senior year of high school, after I'd gotten my first deal and had made some money, I was like, let me reinvest and do some direct mail. And I don't know anything about direct mail. I'm like, that's what everyone does. So let's do it, And so I jumped in, and I literally spent like my life savings, which at the time was like $2,000. I was just it. I was gone, right? On direct mail. And I had my little sideline, my like business number on my phone. And I was sitting in class one day, and then that number rings a couple weeks after I sent out direct mail. So I'm thinking like, yes, I just got a deal. Like I'm hyped. So I'm like, hey, can I use the restroom? The teacher's like, yeah. By the time I get out there, of course, the call is already done, but he left a message. So I'm so excited, and I listened to the message, and hey, please get me the F off your list and get the hell out of here and all those things. And I'm just crushed, And that was the only call I had really received. I had received a couple other calls, but nothing really, like they never called me back. And it was just, it sucks when you're really getting started out, and it's like you put all of your hope and pride into something and it doesn't work out, but yeah, I'd say that's probably a good answer to your question. So
yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many times in high school I've gotten kicked out of my class answering bandit sign calls, but it was all worth it. It was all worth it. So being 21, obviously people like you and me, we should be quote unquote in college. Talking to you and seeing your business overall, I mean, you have better marketing skills than any guy with a marketing degree. I mean, where did you develop these skills that you have now?
Well, I'm kind of, honestly, Zach, I'm kind of a crazy person. So my schedule, I get up every single morning at 5 a.m. I work out. I then work from about 7 till about noon. Then I eat, and then I work from about 1 till about 5 or 6. So I think part of it is just, I just work intensely hard. I also try to read a lot. You can kind of see on the side right there, I have a bookshelf, and I'm constantly reading. And then the other thing is honestly, it's like, yeah, I'm good at marketing now, but like if you would have talked to me 4 years ago, I mean, it wasn't the case.
Yeah,
it's actually funny you bring this up. The other day, I was going through my old like sales scripts I would cold call people with. And I mean, it was just horrible. It was like, I don't even know what I was saying. Like one of the things was like the prospect that I'm talking to asked like, I'm sorry, who is this again? And like my response was like, oh, I'm sorry. Do you don't know about Vann investments? Like that was my response. So I mean, it's just, I've definitely developed a lot. I just think it's a lot of trial and error. And the other thing I'll say too, honestly, about the whole school thing, I'm not the biggest fan of school and the education system. I will say I did not leave college or drop out of school until I had something significant, consistently coming in. And I always see a lot of people, especially in our space with education, is like, we see people that come in and like, they want to quit their job today. And it's like, guys, I literally know people that it took them years to quit their job because they were building up their whether it's their real estate business or whatever businesses, they're building it up. And you got to give yourself that time to build it up. And once you have a proof of concept, that's when you go all in. But you can't put those out of order. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've had students before who have 3 kids, a full-time job, and they got one real estate deal, 10 grand, and they want to jump ship, leave their insurance, and just go on in it. And I personally, I can't give them the go ahead on that. It stresses me out. I don't know what that's like, but I can't feel that I could give that to someone.
Yeah, 100%. I just, like one of the biggest things that I've really learned over the last couple of years is you want to bake a muffin before you bake a cake. And the idea there is like, especially in marketing, since we're talking about that, if I'm going to put out an ad, I'm going to put out an ad with a specific twist. And I'm going to see how people react to that. I'm not going to put $100,000 into the ad before I know whether it's going to work or not. I'm going to put $100 into it. And if I get a good response, guess what? I'm going to put 500 more into it. And then if it still gets a good response, I'm going to put 1,000 into it. But I'm not going to just from, literally nothing, put $100,000 into an ad I have no data on. And it's the same thing with, getting started in any business, talking about real estate, but in any business, you don't want to just jump ship and just say, I'm literally going to forgo every other aspect of my life and do this one thing that I have no evidence will work in the long term, right? Obviously, we know other people have done it and all that, but you have to prove to yourself that you can do it. That's the key. You have to prove to yourself and get it coming consistently before you say, okay, forget everything else and, jumping in. So that's always been my idea, my philosophy of how things should go.
Mm-hmm. And so when it comes back to the surplus funds and everything like that, I mean, has that been a proven model? Has that been recession proof? How does that whole model work during market cycles?
It's funny because one thing that we've realized with surplus funds is it's not just a niche in real estate. And what I mean by that is there's so many different types of surplus funds. Like the definition of a surplus fund is literally just money that's owed to someone from someone that's in someone else's holding. That's all it is. And when we first got started, we solely focused on what's called mortgage surplus funds. And it's what you guys think of surplus funds, I'm assuming, is probably the same thing. It's when a house goes to foreclosure because the bank forecloses on it, and then it sells for more than what's owed, and then that's the extra amount, okay? And you may or may not know this, but there's also tax surplus funds, which is very similar, right? It's when, you get foreclosed on because of taxes, and that's the same process. But then there's also bankruptcy surplus funds, which have nothing to do with that whatsoever, right? There's also what we call state funds or state surplus funds. It's also known as unclaimed property. And right now in America, there's over $50 billion that's owed to people across the country with just state funds. And that has literally nothing to do with real estate whatsoever. It has to do with, life insurance policies or an extra deposit that you left on rent 10 years ago or a million different reasons. And so the beautiful thing about surplus funds is because it's not dependent on real estate, it's just like diversifying your investments, right? It's like if you put all your money into one thing and that one thing goes bad, then yeah, you're kind of in trouble. But by buying a mutual fund with a bunch of different stocks, or by buying a wide range of different properties, if you're a real estate investor, right, you can kind of diversify your cash flow and make sure that everything's still working out. So to say it's recession proof, I would say yes. Certain niches of it are, certain niches of it are not. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've ever done a surplus deal, but I've had a deal before last year where it was a probate, and I found the person died. I tried cold calling the heirs. I couldn't find any heirs, and I did more research, and there was a far off heir, and the only person was this old dude in like Colorado, and he didn't even know, and the thing was paid off, and I got it for like 60 cents on the dollar. I mean, would that be considered something that you teach with your students, or?
We talk about probate a little bit. Probates are a little bit more advanced as far as surplus funds go. There's even right now in the market that we're in right now, which foreclosures are at all-time lows, right?
Yeah.
there's still so much volume. I mean, I talked about our one student, Rick, that's in 5 states doing $100,000 to $150,000 a month in profit. And that's one person, you know? And there's just so much volume with regular stuff that we don't really focus on the more advanced stuff. We've definitely had students get deals kind of similar to that, where it's, hey, it went to probate and it sold at auction and da-da-da. But for the most part, no, we don't focus on the more advanced stuff.
Okay. So a couple more questions about you just being a young dude. I don't get to talk to many young guys, mostly other millionaires in real estate investing that are over 50. So you've obviously made some money very, I would say quickly in the past 6 years, if I can call that quick. Obviously, you're not one of those guys that I've seen on social media that drives around in a Lamborghini with all the Gucci clothes, but you're still making a lot of great money. I mean, how do you keep your ego out of, your success?
It's really hard because I'm extremely competitive, and so I really want to be like the best. And I'm like in my head, I'm like, I think part of it for me is honestly, and maybe initially I think I did initially. I got into real estate and business to make money, but very quickly I realized that I'm not here to really make money. I'm here because I love it. It's just fun for me, and it's like a sport, and because of that, like whether I make $150,000 a month, $200,000 a month, or $1 million a month, or $10 a month, as long as I'm getting better at the sport of business, then I'm pretty happy, and as long as I can cover my basic needs, which is my rent, which is my car payment, which is, eating food. Okay. I consider myself successful. And the other side of it is I just realize it's such a competitive disadvantage to be not frugal. If you think about it, if two people are directly competing and they're both making $20,000 a month profit, and one of them takes all of that money and spends $18,000 of the $20,000 on their lifestyle. They travel, they buy a watch, they buy a car, all this crazy stuff, right? And then the other guy lives on $4,000 and invests the other 16 back into the business. I mean, we all know who's going to win in like 3 or 4 months. Yeah. Okay, it's going to be the second guy. And so that's just kind of always how I've looked at it. I'm a huge John D. Rockefeller fan. There's a book. It's about 9,000 pages. It's called Titan. And it's like written in 8-point font. Okay. It's like the most horrible book to read ever. But it's the biography of John D. Rockefeller. And, if you don't know who that is, he was worth at his peak about 600 billion in today's money. And he was very frugal. So I don't know. It's just a trend I've seen. It's something I've realized I like to do. I like to not have to pay $18,000 a month as an overhead. I like to just live a simple life and just enjoy what I do, So, yeah.
Okay. So piggybacking back to that, obviously you seem like a very smart guy. You don't get all that money. You just put it in the bank, let it get the interest out there. I mean, how are you investing the profits that you're getting in the business?
As far as putting it back into the business, or as far as taking out and investing into other things?
Both. I mean, what are you doing with all the profits you have in your business?
Well, really, I'm in a direct response business. So every dollar I put into marketing, I'm going to make $3 within 24 hours back. Yeah. So I'm just going to put it back into marketing, okay. Up until it's not profitable. And I really believe that with the online ad sources that we're using, we could scale hypothetically to 40,000 a day ad spend, 50,000 a day ad spend, which is, that's a ways off, obviously. But even at that point, it's this is the way I look at it. I love investing in other things. And my whole idea and philosophy on as far as investing and saving money is you make your money in business and then you invest in real estate. And so let me make sure I phrase that correctly. By wholesaling, you're running a business. By surplus funds, you're running a business. It might be involved with real estate, but it's still a business. And then when I say you take that money and you invest in real estate, I mean you're investing it in apartment complexes, in long-term assets versus continuing to run the business. That's kind of my idea. So as far as investing outside of my business, I'm looking at apartment complexes. I'm looking at really just primarily apartments. I'm not a big shopping center guy. I'm kind of bearish on malls. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, but to be honest with you, I'm really not going to make any big investment purchases until the market crashes, because I think we're within 24 months of that happening. So that's kind of
100%. And are you trying to stay out of California with the rent controls when it comes to maybe a big rental purchase?
Yeah. I'm not I live in California. It's beautiful here. It's the most beautiful destroyed place to live in America in terms of our politics. So,
Yeah.
yeah, probably. I mean, it's funny. My business partner, David, he owns a hotel in Texas. He's looking at a hotel right now in, I believe it was Ohio. So I'm not super sure which market I'm gonna go with yet, because I'm not even really at the phase of like looking and all that. Because like I said, I'm waiting. But most likely, yeah, it will not be in California.
Okay. And when it comes to your success you've done for your students, I mean,
Mhm.
was there any impactful story from a student or testimonial that really had the biggest impact on you?
I mean, dude, there's like countless. I would say, I mean, first of all, let me just say this, like the most rewarding aspect of my job is seeing our students get results,
Hmm.
and it's just so cool. And I'm sure you can say the same thing for you guys, like to see students come on and start from wherever they start from to wherever they end up with. It's just so cool to know that you help them do that. As far as specific stories, a couple come to mind. Number one is like our first student ever was this single mother named Maria. And she came to us. She had known David before. She was in David's real estate club, had been involved with wholesaling, but had never really seen the success that she wanted to. And then went through the beta version of our course. Basically, it wasn't even really open to the public at the time. And we actually gave it to her for free. Like it was like literally we hadn't sold any copy. We just gave it to her for free. Which one? Hey, like tell us what you think about it. She went through it, told us how amazing it was, wrote us a check for $1,000. We didn't even asked. We're like, okay, wow, thank you so much. And then a few weeks later, got a deal and made $22,000. So, I mean, that to me was really touching. And I just remember checking my email that day and seeing like an email from her, like all excited about getting her first deal and all that. And we've had so many stories like that. It's hard to single out other ones. Another notable one has been some of the younger guys that we've had. We have a good student of ours named Adrian, who has really taken some like advanced marketing tactics to surplus funds and has done phenomenal, is doing several deals a month now and really scaling up his business. So, I mean, there's just so many, I don't know. I don't know
Definitely. That's cool. So speaking of surplus funds, I mean, you're obviously, you're all in on it. You're definitely scaling that up as much as you can. I mean, is there any other projects that you're working on in the real estate industry that you're trying to get into?
Yeah, actually, it's funny you ask. So, since we started the company, end of 2017, the only product that we've sold has been Service One Mastery. And we've, redone it like 7 times, like refilmed it, added more coaches, like just made it better and better and better until our students have gotten so much results that's just like unbelievable. And then about 6 months ago, we looked at the market and we realized a couple things. Number one is that there are 1 billion people out there teaching how to get started with fix and flipping, how to get started with wholesaling, how to get your first deal as a realtor. And I think all that stuff is great, but I think people have seen a lot of that. I think people have seen the beginner wholesaling courses. I think people have seen the beginner, even the beginner surplus fund stuff now. I think people have seen it a little bit, probably not as much as the other stuff. But we've realized this, and so we've actually started working on a new project called Scale Mastery, which is still kind of in beta. And it's just all about scaling a real estate business. We actually brought on, I talked about Rick, and he's teaching how to build a sales team and really just scale up your business by building a team. And then by using different marketing methods, specifically like online ads and other really advanced stuff that we're really excited about. So that's kind of what we're working on now. Still kind of in the back burner on development and kind of top secret, but since you asked.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. So a couple last questions here. I mean, what gets you pumped up in the morning every day at 5 a.m. and makes you just want to get out of bed and just start the day?
I mean, 2 things. Number one is just being the best. I just want to be the best I can be as a business person, as a business owner, and just as a human being in general. I really, I love basketball. And there was this documentary, there's a bunch of documentaries on Michael Jordan, but there was this one in particular where they spent like 5 minutes just talking about how scary it was to guard Michael Jordan. Like he's just the most unguardable human being on the face of the planet. And I just remember thinking like, I don't play professional basketball. I did when I was growing up and all that, but like, I want to feel that way about just my life. Like I want to just be like, that guy's unguardable. Like, how do we stop this guy? And that's kind of is number one, what gets me pumped up. And number two is what we talked about earlier, which is just student results. Just every day logging onto our Facebook group and seeing people just getting their first deal, getting their 10th deal, getting their 100th deal, changing their lives. And that's those 2 things alone are just so exciting to me. So,
wow. So where do you see yourself in the next 1, 5, and 10 years?
Well, I would say 1 to 5 years is just continuing to scale this company, you know, and growing this company. I really could see us doing, I mean, my goal right now is to get us to 1 to 1.5 million a month. Obviously, you know, that's a big number and all that, but at the end of the day, like there's plenty of companies that have gotten there, and you know, even 1 million a month is 12 million a year. So it's a lot of money, but it's not like, we're not talking about $1 billion company. Okay. It's nothing crazy. But after that, you know, obviously I'm a younger guy, and really the way I look at this company is kind of a launching off point for me. I have some really interesting ideas and solutions to a lot of real estate problems out there. One of which I really think can be a big, massive game changer in terms of the way that real estate's transacted. And so eventually when this company kind of has its ride out, or maybe I'm done with it, I sell my portion or whatever the case is, at that point, I'll probably want to pursue that. So, I mean, just running business. I mean, doing the same thing I'm doing now. I don't know, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So that's awesome. So, you know, I like to end this podcast with the same exact question I ask every single guest. Obviously, a lot of guys I talk to, 60, 50 years old, they like to look back and ask this question. It's kind of harder for you because obviously you've lived it. But I mean, if you were 17 years old again and you're living in SoCal with very little money, what would you do to become the next Spencer Vann?
I would have done two things differently, I guess. But the first thing is I would have really focused more on me and my level of discipline and like, I don't want to say mindset because that sounds so cliche, but I was so undisciplined and so like shiny object syndrome back then, and so not focused. And I mean, like you're a great example of it too. Like it doesn't matter how old you are. Like you can go out and be successful. You can be 12 and be successful. You can be 400 and be successful. It doesn't matter. Okay. The only thing that really matters is having discipline and being focused on one thing and being the best in your market and having a blue ocean and just basic fundamentals. And then the other thing is that I really would have just been more, I don't want to say more patient, but focused more on building long-term skills than trying to do short-term money grabs, because that was the thing. It was like, instead of working on becoming a better salesperson, I would just put together a really crappy, you know, sales phone script like we talked about earlier and just try to call people. And I never would think to like read a couple sales books and make the script better. Like it just never would done. I'm like, let me just call with this one. So I would have spent more time developing those skills.
Wow. So this was amazing. I don't think a lot of people, and they see you from the outside and they say, okay, that's the surplus fund dude, you know, young kid doing well. I mean, I think it's cool that people really get to know, you know, a deeper level of who you are. And obviously you're a lot deeper than anyone probably would imagine just watching those YouTube videos. And I think it's pretty cool. So I really appreciate you coming on today. I mean, do you have any parting thoughts for the audience before we sign off?
No, I just, you know, I appreciate you guys watching. I know I don't do a ton of these interviews and you asked me about it before we got on. And it just goes back to focus. You know, I know that for me, what gets my students results is not me doing an interview. It's me helping them get results. And so if you're looking for results with your business, whether that's wholesaling, surplus funds, I don't know what you do, but whatever it is, focus on that. You know, don't focus on popularity, don't focus on fame, don't focus on Lamborghinis, focus on actually getting results in your business. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So all your socials are going to be below you right there. How can people get a hold of you and your company if they want to start being mentored by you and your coaches?
Yeah, just check out surplusfund.com. We have a free training on there. I'm sure you guys have seen my million ads, as you brought up, Zach, for that. And you can always reach out to us at help@surplusfund.com. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I appreciate it, Zach. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thanks.